Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kikuyo. The title of today's Dharma talk is Boundaries Are a Buddhist Practice. Before we get into that, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that'd be great too. There's a idea in Buddhist circles that won't seem to go away, and it's the concept that as Buddhists we should be accepting of all of the suffering and all of the mistreatment we experience in the world. If people harm us, either physically or verbally or emotionally, we shouldn't respond, we shouldn't act out, we should just allow them to do whatever they want, and we should just take it. Doing so, some people believe, is proof of our own spiritual attainment. However, nothing could be further from the truth. If we look at the historical Buddha, for example, we see someone who had very high standards, not only in respect to how he should behave in his monastics, but also how people should behave in respect to him. He set very clear boundaries. When we look at the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, the Six Perfections, the Four Brahma Viharas, what we see are an individual who knew exactly what was right, what was wrong, and he held people to account if they didn't meet that standard. If his monastics broke the precepts, for example, they were excommunicated from the order. And if people were disrespectful toward the Buddha, he often responded in silence, choosing to not engage with their childish behavior. I can give you an example of how this plays out and from my own life. So in our first year here on the homestead, we planted lots of leafy greens, collards, kale, lettuce, etc. And they grew beautifully. So beautifully, in fact, that they attracted the attention of an insect called the cabbage moth. Now, the cabbage moth is a white moth that flies around and eats leafy vegetables. Not only do they eat the leafy vegetables, but they lay eggs, and when their larvae hatch, they also eat those vegetables, the lettuce, the cabbage, the kale, etc., until there's nothing left. The problem got so bad in the first year that we had to harvest all of our greens earlier than we normally would to ensure that there'd be something left over for us to eat. The following year, we simply didn't plant any. No lettuce, no kale, no cabbage went into the garden because we didn't want the cabbage moths to eat them all. And also, the only guidance I received online was to just kill them, which of course would have been a violation of the Buddhist precepts. This year, however, we did something a little bit different. We planted the kale, we planted the lettuce, we planted the collards, but we also put netting over the garden beds to ensure that the cabbage moths, when they came into the garden, wouldn't be able to eat our crops. We set a boundary. What this does is it allows us to grow and eventually eat our vegetables in peace. However, it does not allow the cabbage moths to attack our vegetables and does not put us in a position where we need to kill them. Now, the nature of cabbage moths have not changed. They're still very voracious eaters, and I'm sure they're chowing down on some gardens somewhere else. However, they have not set foot in our garden, or if they do, they leave fairly quickly because of the boundaries we put in place. So we've gone from a situation where they were suffering not only for us, but also for the moths, to now they're suffering from no one. Everyone is better off because clear boundaries have been set. This was true in the time of the Buddha, this is true when we're planting a garden, and it's true in daily life. As Buddhists, it is not our job to allow ourselves to be mistreated. Rather, it's our job to create healthy, wholesome boundaries that allow us to interact with the world in such a way that it relieves suffering not just for us, but for others as well. When we communicate our boundaries clearly and when we hold to them, even when we receive pushback, what we get is a situation where everyone knows what's expected, everyone knows the consequences of those actions, and if those boundaries are not respected, we're able to remove ourselves from situations that are not healthy for us. They're also not healthy for the other person as well. Boundaries are a Buddhist practice, and when we set them, we make life better not just for us, but for all sentient beings. Amitabha.